So Movement School is dedicated to building a new generation of leadership for the progressive movement. Right now, we focus on two main areas. One is building electoral organizing leadership, so training people to become campaign managers, field directors, communications directors, finance directors, and so forth for progressive congressional, primarily congressional, but progressive races in general. That's one piece. Another side is looking at public housing and how do we build up political leadership among public housing residents here in New York City. But overall, that's the goal of Movement School is really get ourselves to a place where we have an infrastructure behind the progressive movement that bridges the activist and issue organizing world. So how are people organizing in their communities? How are they organizing around things like criminal justice, around climate change? How do we translate that power into electoral power, winning elections cycle after cycle after cycle at every level of politics? Justice Democrats is set up specifically with the goal of running a small number of very progressive candidates for Congress, right? So how do we build up leadership specifically in Congress? So you think about AOC, you think about Rashida Tlaib, you think about Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley from 2018. How do we build up that squad, right, to a place where they can actually dictate the generation, not just of Democratic Party, but of public policy in the United States as a whole? So Green New Deal, Medicare for all. And the thesis is essentially that the ability of the progressive movement to do that is based on our ability to win primaries. If we can win primaries, Democratic Party, we can shift the balance of power within the party. And when that party becomes a governing party, which hopefully will be in a few months, we are able then to push forward this really ambitious agenda. One really serious misconception we have about politics in general right now and organizing around politics is that money is power. We have a system which tells us that if a candidate raises a certain amount of money, they're more likely to win. We don't ever seem to question how that actually happens. Why is it that money becomes power, right? There's just this assumption. You look at the newspaper reports to you how much each candidate raised that cycle, right? That's the metric they use. Like, oh, this person's doing better, they raised 20 million. This person's not so good, they raised only 10 million. But what is actually the metric? People aren't buying votes, right? They're not going out handing out dollars for votes. So what is the way that money becomes power? And that is the problem with the system we have right now, is because that's the only way we can imagine it. We can only imagine in terms of you have more money, you're more likely to win an election. So the easiest thing for me is to always bring the conversation back to values. What are the fundamental values that we share about this country? What is it that we want to see in this nation that we're building together? And are those values around immigration, right? That we are a nation of immigrants. There's a lot of people who would agree that immigration is actually beneficial to this country. Even if they don't like some of the policy prescriptions that different sides might offer, they agree that immigration is good for the country. Healthcare, right? A lot of people disagree on what the healthcare policy should be in the country. But a lot of people, even people who are on the right or who are perhaps considered more moderate, say that yes, everyone in the country should have healthcare. Now, we may differ on how to get there, but they agree that everyone in the country should have healthcare. So bring the conversation first back to values is a way of centering those conversations. Sometimes can get out of hand and get snipey and get difficult because you bring it back to the idea that if we do share values, if we do share our common idea what the country should be, then the problem we have to solve is how to get there. But that's a solvable problem, right? That's something that relates to negotiation around a table that involves many stakeholders. Not easy, but it's solvable. Any kind of conversation you're having, whether it be at the dinner table, whether it be on CNN, whether it be door knocking in any district in the country, bring it back to values first, get that established, and then you can have any conversations you want about the policy pieces of that.